More feedback later, but first let's listen to some other voices on what transpired at the wage bill conference, which was last week, when the leadership of the country was speaking about why 47% of our resources are going to paying salaries and wages.
It's a moral issue, it's an ethical issue. How can we have 1 million people who are the public servants consuming 41% of our revenues and leaving the other 53 million people to consume 59%?
And you know, the irony of this is that when we are asked, those of us who have the privilege to earn from the taxes of Kenyans, when we are asked to contribute 1.5% so that other Kenyans can have a job, we have a big problem.
And so the wage bill conference hosted last week by the Salaries and Remuneration Commission alongside other institutions arrived at the decision that by June 30th, 2028, the country will have reduced the wage bill to 35% of the national revenues, and that by June of this year, at the end of June of this year, then all institutions shall file their action plans to their respective cabinet secretaries and the county executive committee members in the respective counties to ensure that there's a roadmap to ensuring that happens. And Mheshimiwa Mbui, talk to me about
It's like you.
I'll get to you, don't worry.
You seem to have been going that way.
You're still visible, don't worry.
I'll get to you.
Am I invisible?
You're still on the show, I can assure you. Mheshimiwa Mbui, I think you're tickled by that. But talk to me about, you look at the resolutions and there doesn't appear to be any tangible effort to reducing the wage bill. Yes, there are intentions, but you don't see so much work because wage bill is being taken by the consumption by the existing public service.
Yeah, you know, even just the clip you've played, when you listen to the president, his comments, the ones that you've just played, completely go against the purpose for which that conference was about. He's actually gone there to talk about taxation and complain that people who are salaried don't want to contribute money to pay for his housing project, because that's what he talks about. It's an unfortunate situation. We need to stop trivializing some very, very important things like the issue of the wage bill. The problem is the government largesse and the executive's own intention to live large. Mm-hmm. If you go to our counties, you will be shocked at the kind of convoys that our governors are running. You know, in our county governments, our governors are running like a fleet of like 10 vehicles. And you wonder, you ask yourself why. Because the governor is one person, and the governor can go and inspect a project with the CS or the minister, CEC, for that department, and they can go in 2 cars. Mm. But you find that if it's a governor and one CEC, there will be like 20 vehicles. The kind of wastage is a real problem, that we do waste a lot of money with a lot of people. And then everybody who gets into a position of authority has to end up recruiting people for themselves. You know that you become a CS, now you have the government officers that you find there, but you have some leeway to also bring in some personal assistants and advisors on how to talk, advisors on how to dress, advisors on how to conduct your office matters. These are the realities. So the minute we crack down and maybe come up with specific budgets that reduce the monies that go to this department, maybe that's when we'll get the solution. But the problem is that Parliament, which should be able to assist and I'm happy I'm here with colleagues, Parliament, which should be able to assist in reducing some of these excesses by cutting down some of the budget so that we do not give excessive money to some departments, is also kind of constrained, because, you know, we're operating in a political environment where the majority will have their way. And unfortunately, the majority is always, under the current situation, is always on the side of the executive. So it's difficult for us to operate. It's difficult for us to deal with this issue. I wish SRC luck in their conversations, but I'll tell you that it will be just a talk show. They've just said they'll reduce it to 35% we will be in this show. It will not happen. That's a reality of this country. It will not happen. The only thing might happen is that a few people with a few fake certificates will leave office, and that's it. But to bring it down to, I think, I don't know, 35% of the national income, that is not going to happen. Not in those few months. Maybe if we are talking about many years.
Let's listen to what the governor of Kirinyaga, the chairperson of the Council of Governors, thinks should be done to reduce the wage bill revenue ratio in the counties.
We also inherited mostly on the county's side bloated public services from the defunct local authorities. If the percentage of the revenue to counties was higher, and if counties put measures in place to increase their revenue allocation, they would be able to lower the average, the wage bill average.
So, Mheshimiwa Orero, the governor says that if there's more allocation to the counties, it will fix the wage bill to revenue ratios. So indeed, so nothing to be done on what is consuming, increase the national cake.
I think the chair of the governors is being an escapist. You cannot tell us in public that you inherited a bloated council, and that is why your wage bill is high. Even if they were to be given more allocation, to me, that would not reduce the wage bill. Normally we say, if you cannot use the little you have, even if you are given more, it will be the same way. If they cannot use whatever they have now in a more a better way, then even if they are given more funding, they will still not use it. I have yet to see a governor who has come with a very pragmatic way of reducing the wage bill, who has employed very few people, but has effectively delivered in their services. When you look at the assessment of the governors, a whole 1 year, some of the counties have not even done a single development, yet they are still demanding more allocation. Of course, for devolution purposes, they need more allocation. But what are they doing with this allocation?
Right.
The devolved function, how are they operating the devolved function? In fact, as I looked at the head of the state talking yesterday and the other day about the wage bill, I remembered during my childhood, not even my childhood, there are certain communities which say that the certificates never die. It is only the people who die. So when somebody dies, that certificate is used by somebody else. And you know those communities, that the certificate never dies. So, and that is what has happened in this government, that those certificates which have never died are used in the government to have this bloated wage bill. So, even when I was growing, I remember one of my teachers in a primary, the only thing he could say, we sang one song for a whole year. Third person singular, everyday tense, always as. Again, later on we realized that this person had no certificate and worked throughout in our place. We can still remember. And the pilferages in this government, even if they were to reduce the number of employees in public service, the pilferages are just enough to control. We don't need even to reduce the wage bill. If we were to utilize what we have in a more effective manner, if we were to look at the skill level of our people in the country and grow economy, small business enterprises, we will still have enough for us. And
so how do you exactly do what you're suggesting?
You know, when this government came in, they came on a platform of, I think, this bottom-up economy, and they say they will have small micro enterprises, they will give loans, they will have cheaper loans from the banks, they will empower the youth through the skills, they will have prior learning, they will have certification of those who have skills, they will have the technical colleges to enlarge their skill base. We are in almost the third year. They said that each constituency will have a technical institute to develop this.
No, I'm saying,
yes.
You said that we need to reduce the pilferage.
Yes, or the pilferage.
And actually, let's just listen to what the president says about that alongside the chairperson of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission?
We must deal firmly, decisively with corruption. There is a lot of wastage. There is pilferage, there is outright theft in the public space.
There was a lot of discussions around duplication of functions, duplication of roles, duplication of mandates. But the question that was asked in the end is, what happened to the previous reports?
So everyone appears to have very good clarity about what the problem is, but you're not hearing the solution. So if there's wastage, if there's duplication of roles, that you don't exactly need 953,000 employees in the public service, what is the next step?
The head of state has admitted to Kenyans that there is a lot of pilferages. What is he doing? He wants to employ more cars. And each of them will have security, not one, not two.
You mean Chief Administrative Secretary?
Yes.
Yes, CSS. They will have more cooks. They will have hairdressers.
A CS has a cook.
Of course, they are given. The CSS, they are employed. They are told that now you can employ a cook, extra,
Is that so?
secretary, 2 or 3 more. You cannot have a CS without 3 secretaries, 4 security personnel. And it is a lot of wastage. These are the things that he must start with, even if you are given an office of authority. Why would you have a bloated government system with so many people serving a singular person? We must have efforts. By that head of state saying that he has pilferage, there is corruption, then who else will deal with corruption if he cannot deal with corruption? Those are spurs of the moment.
Okay.
After that, after the conference, after those talks in the conference, we are not going to see any action being taken. For them, it is about the speech written, it is about pronouncements, and we have no logical steps that are going to be taken. In fact, I concur with my friend here. If you are going to deal with a wage bill, where would you talk about taxation? Where do they marry? They are at variance. Where do they marry? They are not. So it means that we are trivializing certain issues in this country. We must move away from trivializing issues.
All right. And Mheshimiwa Hassan, I'll get to you, DS. So all this being said and saying that they want every other system, every other department to use the human resources systems, which is a payroll system, a new payroll system being rolled out in the country. Is it possible to do it? And even as we talk about the intention to reduce the pilferage, is it possible to take action, or are they being too skeptical?
Well, it is. I think if the government walks the talk and does what it says, the president has pinpointed what the problems are. He has the machinery and the system and the powers and the authority to effect that. So the question is there a gap between the rhetoric and the reality? And charity begins at home. The civil service reform system can do that. And it's not rocket science. Many countries have effected very thorough reforms that have shaped and improved the effectiveness of the civil service. For example, we have never reviewed as a country the bloated system that the governor was mentioning. For example, even though now we have an elected government, devolved government at the county level, you still have the chiefs, you have the county officials like the DOs, the DCs, the regional commissioners, with all their salaries and their expenditure, duplicating many of the works that the counties could do very easily. And in the counties, 70% of the revenue they get is used towards paying for wages. And so there's very little left for development, and that's actually the crisis. And wastage and leakages, as they say, is everywhere.
So why won't we stop it?
It is about, that is why I'm surprised that when we're talking about controlling the wastage, there would always be an element of wastage and leakages in any institution, in any government in the world. But it is minimized to a position where it is not a threat or does not destabilize the system. So this needs to be done very quickly. For example, I just can give you some few examples when you go to government offices. Every government offices buys fresh flowers every day. Every government official in the country has a color television paid for by the taxpayers. They take tea and mandazi. This is not huge, but if you really wanted to cut down, the president could say today, I don't want to see any flowers, cut flowers in any government public office. I don't want any entertainment on public money. Don't give me tea or coffee or water when I go to your office. I'm not going to your office to drink tea or coffee. I'm going to have a meeting with you. So
does that happen in Parliament?
Yes, everywhere. Every government department you go to. Even Parliament is part of the problem.
So why not start there?
Yes, but I'm saying I'm not in the leadership of Parliament. But what I'm saying is that you can see this wastage everywhere.
Yeah.
And if you're really serious about it, you can do something about it. That's why I'm saying that the government must walk the talk and be seen to be doing things on the ground. For example, we have road agencies in the country. The government has. There is Kenha, there is Kura, there is Kera, and then there's the county roads. Mm-hmm. Why on earth don't we just merge these road agencies? Because everyone has a director general, a car, security, offices, secretaries, and expenditure. And they're doing exactly the same thing. They're just building roads all over the country. You can go to many other sectors. The issue of bursaries is another good example.
Okay.
You know, the president gives bursaries. The government gives bursaries. Government ministries give bursaries. The counties give bursaries. Members of parliament give bursaries. I mean, if we're really serious as a country, we would rationalize a lot of these things and say,
all right,
we are not a rich country. We are a low-income country, and we live beyond our means. And the biggest wastage and expenditure is in the government, where taxpayers' money is used.
I hear you. And Deputy Speaker, at the end of the day, Kenyans will ask the question, where is Parliament when this is going on? I didn't see you at the conference. Maybe you were not invited. But
I was invited, but unfortunately I had other...
Sorry, I'm saying as the institution of Parliament, I didn't see representation there.
Yeah, actually was there. I wouldn't know.
There were some. The committee was there. The committee for
Labour.
For Labour was there, yes.
So as an institution, and even the judiciary, they were not there, but they also lead to what you see as the public wage bill. So from here, all these concessions can be made. The government officials may agree that there are certain steps they're going to take, but if they're not anchored in law, then they're as good as nothing.
I think some of this... I don't know what you mean when you say they're not anchored in law, because, again, you run the danger of over-legislating. Some issues are in policy. Mm-hmm. I think the issue of saying that we need to reduce the salaries from 41% of our total budget to 35%, that's a policy statement made by the head of state. And it is a decision that has emanated from this particular conference. And I believe that solutions begin with when we start opening up and discussing the problem. I think this is the first time that this discussion is being held at that level, at the highest level, at the level of the head of state.
No, it's not. There was the first wage bill conference, I think, in 2014. There was another one in the second term of President Kenyatta. This is the third one that we're having. And these resolutions are very similar to what has been said before.
No, I saw the build-up from when SRC started. Initially, most of the discussions were centered whether SRC could recommend, whether they could decide what the allowances are, and it was the push and pull between whether it was Parliament or the judiciary and other institutions with SRC.
Right.
But right now, there seem to be an agreement that something has got to be done and something has to give way. We've seen that. I'm saying, what can we do? How do we reduce the wage bill? How do you recruit more, professional staff? How do we make the public service more efficient? So it's taken a different level. If you look at the topics that were discussed this time and previously, and even just that having the proper panel discussion where the head of state is sitting in it and field questions being raised by various the ministers and so on, I think this conference gives us an opportunity to act. In fact, on the issue of fake certificates, it's given actually a free hand now to anyone who is in charge of HR in any part of the public service to act, because the president has said we must act on them. You do not require the president to do anything further. All you have to do now is weed out those people, sign summary dismissal letters, and if you get a phone call from somebody above, you can say, the president has already pronounced himself on this. So it gives us an opportunity, it gives them an opportunity to act. You do not require anything further. So people expect that a policy emanates sometimes just from a written document sent to them and so on, or regulations. Certain pronouncements already been made and discussed at that level. You're perfectly capable of acting on them. But on this wage bill issue, the biggest culprit is not the public service. The biggest culprit is the counties. Because the way our counties have been designed, that with every change of county government, it's almost like a hostile coup. Because what happens is the new governor wants to come with their own employees, their own set of people and so on. And the challenge is, and I've seen it in many counties, where there are people who have been put on permanent and pensionable by the county public service boards. In fact, I don't know why they do that, because they should have just put them on contract so that they can, on a 5-year contract, so that if changes need to be made by the new governor, then their contract is expiring. But unfortunately, many of them are put, in fact, I know cases where governors have put people on permanent and pensionable shortly before they leave office. Then the new governor comes and thinks, I can't work with these people, redeploys them to various places where they are doing nothing, and then rehires a new set of people, and so on. So actually, if we need...
How many are they allowed to hire, the governors?
It seems like there's no end in sight. Because I've seen my experience and evaluating several counties, that is the challenge. So unless this is dealt with, and I've been talking to my colleagues in Senate, and I said, Senate, you're the ones who oversight the governors. You need to begin to see what to do to ensure that this stops. Just the way a president comes in, so the issue is not with the CECs or the chief officers and so on. The problem is with the majority of the employees who are at a different cadre. And that's why you find that even counties don't have money to pay the doctors, because they've spent a huge amount hiring all sorts of administrators and directors and so on, because every new governor just puts it. And every governor before they leave, there's pressure from their people who they came with to put them on permanent and pensionable before you leave. And then, so the story goes on. So you will see that the graph is on an upward trajectory.
Right.
On the number of employees in every county, and no county is exempt from this problem.
But because
I think they can bear me witness.
EACC gave a directive that governors can hire director of the governor's press service, chief of staff, economic advisor, political advisor, legal advisor, and support staff. The support staff include a driver, cook, messenger, gardener, personal secretary, and personal assistant. And I'm just wondering, comparing that at the county level, what they are allowed to do, and at the national level, I think the numbers do not even tally in any way.
Yes, but those are very few. I mean, you're just talking about they call them partisan staff in Parliament, the people around you. But with Parliament, it has a very good system. When I have any partisan staff around me, I'm allowed to recommend certain people to be employed, to work for me. But what eventually, their contract is pegged to my tenure, so that the moment I exit, they exit with me.
Okay, all right. Interesting conversation there. you are saying that the counties, is what you used, that they are the biggest culprits in terms of pushing the wage bill.
Yes.
I'm looking at the figures. Out of 1.1 trillion shillings, the counties only account for 195 billion shillings. So the huge chunk of that, over 800 billion shillings, is the national government.
Yes.
So counties are not the biggest culprit, are they?
No, but believe me, because theirs is continuous. That's what I'm saying. Let's have the conversation at the public service level.
Yeah.
The executive must have a similar conversation at the counties, because the counties will continuously continue to balloon. They have a small budget. They are supposed to focus on agriculture and health, but then now they've become an employment agency.
All right, let's take let's take a look at some figures. Right, that is according to the controller of budget, and these are payrolls that were processed in the year 2022-2023, and some counties process, of course, a huge chunk of it on the online platform, but there are those that also have manual payrolls. Nakuru County was leading with 1.6 billion shillings. Then Bomet County had 920 million shillings worth of payroll manually processed, was in Gishu 778 million, Homa Bay 738 million, and Siaya 685 million. So every county has some money that was spent for payroll manually, and this is what the conference last week agreed, that this has to stop forthwith so that everyone else is being processed through the new system of Human Resource Information System Kenya, and that has to be done by June 2025, 30th of June 2025, in a manner to contain the wage bill. And of course, we will wait to see the action taken from that, but I want us now to focus on the final topic of the floods that we have experienced in the country.